Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our winter break for screening series. We are so excited to have you here for this conversation around the documentary Softie. We are absolutely thrilled. My name is Cassidy Diamond. I am the Public Programs and Events Director here at the International Documentary Association. Before we begin, I would like to offer up a land acknowledgement. I am coming to you today from Los Angeles, which is on the unceded land of the Tongva and Chumash people, who have been stewards of this land for generations. I'd also like to acknowledge our sponsor support, IndieWire, for helping to bring this series to us, along with KCRW. We couldn't do it without the support of both of you, so thank you. As I said, we're kicking off our final month of the IDA screening series. We have a full month of conversations left, so you can go to documentary.org/screening series to check out our upcoming conversations and films. And without any further ado, I'm gonna introduce our indomitable host, Academy Award winning actress, Lupita Nyong'o, who is going to moderate this conversation for us today.
Thank you so much. Hi all, it is my distinct honor to be in conversation with the team behind the documentary Softie, and I'd like to call them up. First, I'd like to call on Sam Soko, who is an Academy Award nominated film director and producer based in Nairobi, and is co-founder of LBX Africa, a Kenyan production company. We also have Toni Kamau, the producer. She's a factual producer and founder of We Are Not the Machine Limited, a Kenyan-based production company. She has worked on shorter documentaries for Al Jazeera, MTV Europe, BBC, and CCTV Africa. Along with Softie, she has 2 more feature documentaries in the pipeline. And also Boniface Mwangi, who is the lead subject of our documentary. And he is a Kenyan photojournalist, social political activist, and now a politician also. He has been the recipient of 2 CNN Africa Photojournalist of the Year awards for the photos documenting the widespread post-election violence of 2007 and 2008 in Kenya. He has been recognized as a Global TED Fellow for his activism work, and he founded the Power 254, a hub for artists and activists to work together towards social change in Kenya. He was also recently named one of 2020's most influential Africans. Alongside him, his wife, Njeri Mwangi, who has always wanted to make a social impact, though she never always knew how. She graduated from college in 2005 and had a chance encounter with Boniface at an ice cream shop that changed the trajectory of her life. With him, she raised 3 children, and through his rise in public prominence, she found her way out of the shadows to co-found Power 254 and into investigative journalism as well, highlighting the many challenges women face in an ever-changing world. I actually recently watched her feature for the BBC about Kenya's baby stealers, and I was moved to tears. I highly recommend you check it out. And so to begin the conversation, first I want to say congratulations to all of you for the success of this film. It premiered at Sundance, and now it's nominated for an IDA and is the only African directed and produced documentary in contention for the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. Those are big, 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 big things that you have already achieved. And I learned about you, Softie, through my mother, actually. We have a family group chat, and I'm in the United States, and I see a text that she's in traffic on her way to a premiere. And I think to myself, a premiere? I immediately call her up. I'm like, hey, mommy, what's up? She's like, oh, I'm on my way to a premiere of a film called Softie. And I said, interesting. What about COVID-19? And she says, oh, I didn't think about that. She says, okay, I guess I won't attend the premiere. I'll just go and say hi to Boniface and then I'll leave. So I kind of forbade her to go to the premiere. And but something told me that I hadn't been persuasive enough. Indeed, she went, and the next thing I know, she has reviewed the film in our family chat, and she's like, everybody has to watch this. It's so moving. I cannot tell you how represented I feel. And I forgave her for going to the premiere, and because she sent me the film and I watched it for myself, and I saw immediately why she had ventured out and taken the chance to sit in that cinema, which was very COVID friendly in terms of its restrictions, so she said. And so what I saw in the film for me was just, you know, I am the daughter of a political activist in his youth who is now a full-blown politician. And I had been your children, Boni and Njeri. I had been on the campaign trail with my father. I had seen him injured and not understood what was going on. And so for me, it was truly representational of an experience that I had had so personally. And to see what you went through and to see the intersection of how the political you know, meets with the familial, the personal, was so moving to see. Just the individualized story of the struggle for Kenya was extremely moving for me. And I was so touched that you had lent your life to this narrative with Sam Soko as your director. So my first question would be to you, Soko. You know, I'm used to seeing documentaries that from Kenya that are news features or political propaganda. But here we have a really creative story. And like I said, it's about the intersection of the personal and the public, the political and the private. And so I wanted to ask you, what was your agenda when you set off to make this film, and how did it change along the way?
That's I'm actually pretty moved by your words and what you've just said about how you reacted to the film when you watched it the first time, because I think when you're making the film, that's not something you're looking out for. And at the beginning, I think the basic thing we just wanted was to make a short video using Boniface's protests and put it out there to inspire, you know, our generation of activists, and kind of like, if you want to speak out about anything, this is something you can do. So, and Boniface was like, you know, headstrong, all good, cool. And he was like, yeah, just come, just film. And us guys were scared as hell to do anything. But over time, you kind of start to realize that whatever that's in the face, whatever you see in the news, whatever you see at the protest, there's so much more that happens in the background. Like this one time he got home and he just come from, actually had gotten arrested, and his son was asking him about homework. And in your head, you're like, the son is oblivious that this is what the father's gone through. And like, once you see that, then you realize there's so much more that happens in the background. And like, there's so much sacrifice and questions. Like there's a lot to question in terms of what it means to love your country and at the same time love your family. And that's kind of what drew us and became like the agenda, and like answering those questions, because I think those are questions that we answer for ourselves as citizens in our own countries and in our own spaces.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't set off to capture his home life, and
yet 7 years ago now, actually it's gonna be 7 years when we started, and it was just supposed to be a 5-minute video that became a 15-minute video that became a 30-minute video. And by the time I'd found acceptance, like, okay, this is actually going to be a long film, it was those things of like, this, we have to kind of showcase this honesty and kind of reflect that honesty to the citizens whom we engage with every day.
Wow, that's really incredible to learn, because, you know, in certain moments, I could tell that the person who had taken prominence from the political, like in the moment, just like the way we learn about whether he won or lost, we learn it through the reaction of his children. So what do you think this perspective can offer the very thing that you stand for, Boni, and what you captured as a filmmaker, both you, Toni, and Soko?
I think that something that's very interesting is when we were making the film, the film was made for different audiences, including Boniface and Njeri, because they had no idea. Like Boniface, of course, knew what I was filming when I was with him, but he had no idea of what I was filming with Njeri or what I was filming with the kids. So when we were putting the film together and like editing it, it's important for them to see an aspect of themselves and learn that for themselves as well. But at the same time, for Kenyans to see that as well about themselves, because we know about, say, voter bribery, and we know about people buying votes, we know about people asking for stuff, but we've never really seen that. Like, this is us doing this, and this is the consequences of all the decisions we've made historically, and this is where all these things are coming from. So the idea was to do that, but then an unintended consequence, which has been incredible, is how other spaces and in other countries around the world, audiences are reflecting on the film and seeing their own situation within the film.
Wow, yeah, that's really powerful. And for you, Njeri, the question you ask in the car about what comes first, God, family, or country, really struck me. And it really did remind me a lot about my mother's struggles with being the wife of a politician. So for you, Njeri, whether it's family or country, how do you come to agree to have Sam come into your life with his crew and so intimately capture you? Why did you agree to that? And what did you hope would come out of it?
So initially, when he started filming, it was very important for us to document the work that we were doing, for the future, so that we can be able to say, this is where we started, this is what we did, and this is what we took to the streets, and this is what we achieved. So it was a very documenting kind of process. And so we were so used to seeing Soko around doing this filming. So the day that he came and asked me if the camera can turn and tell the story of how the work that we do is affecting me and is affecting the children, I was taken aback. I was like, no, you can't do that. I mean, that completely exposes me. It exposes my vulnerabilities, it exposes my fears, it exposes my pains, it exposes the family in ways that I have kept this as this is our private space. So you're asking me to enter our private space, and not just for yourself, but to tell the world about our private life? No. Then he told me why it was important. And then I said, okay, let me think about it. And what struck me is that the lives of wives of politicians and their children, and I spoke even with your mom about this, is that there's so much that happens that people do not know. And the children suffer. And you would know this because you said this even as a child of a politician. And you would know this because you suffer. You don't see your father for long. You see, and when you see him, sometimes he's hurt, he's wounded, and you don't know what's happening around that. And we as mothers have to try and keep the children feeling safe and secure in the midst of all this storm. And we are trying to bring the father home looking like, I got this. Everything is fine. Everything is going to be okay. And not tell the children the things that would scare them. So for me, I thought about all the women, all the wives, all the mothers, all the children that live this life that no one seems to care about, no one seems to know about, and takes so much for granted about this politician, as if he does not come from a family, as if he does not have children and a wife that love him. And I said, okay, this is not just my story for sure. This is the story of all of us. And so my hope for this film was that when people see this film, they'll not just see Njeri, they'll not just see our children, Nate, Naila, and Jabali, but they will see themselves. They will see themselves as wives, as partners, as children. And then hopefully we can be better spouses, we can be better children, we can be better parents, we can be better citizens of this country, because politicians do not need to go through some of the things that they go through. And that question, does country come first or God come first? Or country or God or family? I'm like, it's God, then family, then country, in that order, because then God puts this burning fire in your heart and you want to take care of your children and you want to provide for them and you want to make them safe. And to do that, you need a country that is working. You need systems, you need everything that is in good working condition. So you go into the country to make it good and right for your children, because God has given you this burden in your heart to do these things for your family and for your country. And so for me, it falls in that order, that it's God, family, and then country.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Boni,
Toni,
for you, what effect do you think being filmed had on the choices you made? And also, what was your involvement beyond being the subject in this film?
So I lived my life like it was normal. So there was I didn't change my lifestyle in any way because I was being filmed. What was the last part of your question? Sorry, I got disoriented a bit.
The other part of my question was, what was your involvement beyond being the subject? And what did you think of the finished product?
Oh.
So me and Sam fought a lot, because I have a very public life, but my family was very private. And so for Sam to come and film my family was actually a struggle. I remember that times I told him to switch off the camera because I thought it was very invasive. There was a time someone had to come to church with me and I said, no, you can't come. That's my private space. So there's a lot of that push and pull between me and the director, that you cannot come to I felt like it was very intrusive. So there were times where I told him that you can't film that. And later on, when I watched the film, I was like, shuck, you should have filmed everything. Because I saw my life in another way. The finished product for me was very revealing. I saw how my kids see me, and I was very heartbroken, because when I gave my country my best, I gave my family the leftovers. My best waking moments was spent with strangers, either looking for votes or in the campaign trail, or just doing activism. Like I woke up very early in the morning to go and do something for people in another community, while my kids never saw me. So watching the finished product, I felt like I'm an asshole. I feel like I'm a very bad father. And it made me reflect about the moment that I missed out in the family. And that meant that 2020, it was the year of COVID, and many people have suffered and people have lost their loved ones. My condolences. But for me, I got my family back. I was able to become a very intentional father, because I was able to reflect from what I saw from the film. I was like, my kids will grow up and say, he was great for the country, but it was a disaster as a father. So I spend more time with my kids. I cook for them, we go out. I think Softie for me brought me back home.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Njeri? What did the finished product, have an effect on you?
I think for me, I also saw things about Boni that I didn't know, because like Soko said, he filmed Boni by himself. He filmed the kids when he was alone with them. And there are things I didn't know about Boni, and there are things I didn't know about our kids. And truly that film just showed me what my children were suffering. You know, some of the things that they were really struggling with that I did not know. And it broke my heart to see them that way, because I thought I had tried so much to protect them. But then it also made me realize I can't be and do everything for them. So this year we've had honest conversations. We've let them say what they think. They ask questions. We welcome all kinds of questions. And we've become really close, because we've been able to have conversations about anything and everything, but also we've been able to spend a lot of time together. So as COVID has shut people in, it has really drawn us together. It has really drawn us close. And I would say the years that we lost out there with Bonnie, this year has kind of made up for it in a way. Maybe not everything, because again, he missed a lot of stuff, and he made us miss a lot of stuff because we had to go where he needed to be. Yeah, and it was not really an option. It's just, he needed us to be there, and I was like, okay, let's go and be with Dad. And it's not something that we were always happy to do, because we'd rather have been somewhere else in that moment. Like if you've seen the film where we have to leave my niece's birthday party and go and be with Bonnie where he needed to be, and it was just very sad. So this year has helped us to just recover from that and learn each other and appreciate each other in a whole new way. And that for me is what the gift of Softie has been.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so emblematic of what the gift of cinema is, isn't it? Because it draws us out of our own situations and shows us a more panoramic view of what's going on, what humanity is going through, what a family is going through. And we gain so much perspective when we are able to get out of our own circumstances, which kind of leads me to my next question, which is to you, Toni. This kind of open documentation of the political corruption and the collective amnesia that we suffer from, that then the politicians take full advantage of. This is life-threatening work, potentially, and I can definitely attest to it. My father lost his brother before I was born. He was killed and he disappeared and was never found. And I'm actually a relative of Chris Msando, who was killed, the head of the IEBC. So that was a trauma for my family. That was extremely devastating. So what on earth drove you to get involved in such risky business?
Thank you. That's a really good and very scary question, because I'd forgotten about all that. So I think, that's a good question, because before I joined Softie, I was more in the commercial space, working on TV commercials and TV shows, which are about more mundane topics. But I first actually met Boniface in 2007 and 2008. When he was doing Picha Mtaani, and we went on a tour across Kenya, and I was in my mid-20s. And when the post-election violence was happening in Kenya, I saw it on TV, and it looked like something that was so far removed. And then when I went to the ground with Boniface and interviewed people, people who had seen their houses burnt down, people who had lost family, people who were actually forced to participate in violence, that completely changed, I think, my life and my perspective on politics. And it really shook me. So I took time away from that to go to advertising. And then when I met Soko, who had been filming Boniface for a while, so this was I think 7 years or so after Picha Mtaani, when I met Soko and I saw the footage, it just reminded me about what I'd seen on the ground with Boniface, because it's something I tried to forget. And what he captured, this lived reality of Boniface and the family, of the sacrifices that they had to make. I just kind of felt like it was my duty as a filmmaker and as a producer to be able to get on board this project. It took over a year of convincing from Soko, who's a very persistent person. Everyone who has joined the team has been given a 2-year or 3-year pitch about why you should join the project, including the EPs. But I think Soko really convinced me just because of his conviction, and then also just the kind of footage that he had access to. I saw, I was able to see who Boniface had been during Picha Mtaani, during post-election violence in 2007. And I was able, you were able to clearly chart the journey, this growth. And I could see why he was doing the things that you kept on seeing him doing in the media, going to the streets, being very vocal, things that people would say, I don't understand why he's doing this. Why can't he just toe the line? So I just felt like there was no choice to participate. But I think we've been quite fortunate with this film, because the more public we are about our release, the more public we are about doing things like this, these panels, you know, the better it is for the film team in terms of security. Because I think one of the most important things is, you know, freedom of expression, freedom of press. It's a challenge in most parts of East Africa and other parts of Africa, but we can't cower. You know, I think Boniface and Njeri are a great example. You have to get out and speak, and you can't let them be the only ones, you know, getting out and speaking by themselves.
That's true. So what has been the response, then this is to any of you, to the film locally and also internationally?
It's been, wow. So because we kind of had like an on and off because of COVID of whether we wanted to premiere the film or not. The premiere your mom was running to, and we were kind of we just said in the best way possible, because we got like a pretty bad classification because the film is rated over 18, and that simply meant we could only show it to a certain kind of viewer in a certain kind of space. But it from January to when we premiered the film in Kenya in October, we kind of felt it was very important for us to share the film to as many people who could watch it. And we initially was supposed to be in the theaters for 2 weeks. We ended up being there for 7, because of the sheer response. Yeah, and I think because of the COVID surge, the second wave and everything, we just made a choice to make the film available digitally in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in South Africa, and in Nigeria, just because of how crazy the year has been in some of these spaces. And right now, we're just saying for the rest of, I think the next 3-4 months, the film is going to be available digitally and people can watch it in these spaces because not only have we seen how other African countries respond to our story, but we've also realized the importance of us telling our own stories and just capturing our moments and sharing them with other people. And it kind of has a different connection. And that's like, I think we're still being blown away by the response, because that's initially, you know, that's not what we were going for, but it's just been incredible.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a little bit, like we had our premiere at Sundance like early on this year, and I think we were nervous when, first of all, we were the first Kenyan documentary to actually be at Sundance. So first of all, that was a shock to be in that room and to actually show the film to people. And I think what surprised us was the response was so visceral, and from the most unlikeliest people, like old women who live in Utah in their 70s were coming up to us and saying, "Oh my God, this is the most incredible film I've ever watched." And we're like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yes, it's amazing. Like, I get Njeri, I get Boniface." Like, so I think it's just been so fascinating. Like, this, because Softie is special because it's not just a political activist documentary, and there's nothing against that, but like you said, it just draws, it shows the personal and the political in such an intimate way, and it just shows like how you can't divorce them, because I think a lot of times, like in places like Kenya, I don't know how it is as much in the States, but there's always this narrative that other people will solve the problems. Someone else will go to the streets and protest. Someone else is going to be the one who go to jail, and then I will just live my life and be okay. And I think for a lot of people who watched it in Kenya, especially, the reactions that I've gotten from a lot of middle-class people who do not go to the streets, who have thought of Boni as a noisemaker and Njeri as this long-suffering wife who's afraid of everything. Like, I think the response that I've gotten from people is like, "Oh my God, those are the other people I'm talking about. They have needs. They need to live their lives. How is it fair for me?" And I actually had this conversation with a friend. How is it fair for me to just sit in my comfort and expect them to put their lives on hold and I'm not doing anything? So I think those really personal reactions from Kenyans, from East Africans, has been one of the most special, I think, things about releasing the film in Kenya and in the States as well.
I want to pivot a little bit and go to a little bit of like film geek mode with you, Soko. Creative documentary is new to you, right? This is your first feature of this kind, and yet you show such prowess with how you have carved out the dramatic narrative. It's very compelling. Even picking Boni as a character and the places you chose to put your camera. But then there is this opening, this bloodbath of an opening that I want to talk about. I was so intrigued with that opening. I had no idea what this film was about, right? And I was filled with dread, but also intrigue. I was like, what kind of witchcraft is going on here? When the film started, I did not know what direction we were taking with that bloodbath. So I wanted to ask you how on earth you came to that as the first thing, because I think it definitely set a tone that carried through the entire film. There was a sense of foreboding that I think that beginning established. So tell me how that came about. And then for you, Boni, like these tactics, where do they come from, and what have been their effect on the ground?
Okay, wow. So I think at the beginning, because that part of the film was shot in 2013 and it was shot by, I think I was very lucky to have incredible cinematographers in terms of like just what they captured. And I think it's hilarious because they did not know what they're capturing, because the whole time they were like, what the hell is this? It was like totally not being sure what's going to happen. But the protest itself is perhaps arguably one of the most symbolic protests we've had in Kenya, because it literally changed the name of members of parliament from MPs to MPigs. And like, even it's now, if you were adding words to a Kenyan dictionary, that word is in there. And when we were editing the film, I think for people who know me and engage with me, I'm a pretty fan person in the general. I'm like, you kind of, I do like when films start and people are like, oh my God, this is such a serious film. But I also like to start films or tell stories in a way you're like, okay, this is weird, but it's kind of fun, but it's kind of weird. Like what's going on here? And that kind of, I think that kind of character and engagement. And I was so lucky to have two amazing co-editors who were okay with that. Because sometimes they're like, no, this is so serious and we need to keep it serious. Because I think it always kind of caught people off guard, because I remember even when Boniface and Njeri watched it the first time, they were like, no, play that part again. Because I was like, what's going on? Because it kind of speaks to everything that we go through as a citizenry and who we are as Kenyans, because we are all those things. We're kind of secretive in kind of how we operate, but at the same time, we kind of want to speak out and tell what we're feeling like, but at the same time, we're scared about the consequences of what's going on, but all in the same, still want to have a good time at the end of the day. So kind of how do we combine all these aspects and still present a story that's us? And I think the journey of the film has been about that. And I'm so happy that that's what audiences get.
So just like you, Lupita, the opening scene just got me. The first time I watched the film, I was like, what? Can I watch that again? My influence goes back to many things. I'm an artist and I'm a photographer. And when we began doing protests, we realized that people fear going to the streets, because when you go can get beaten, guys get shot, guys get killed, guys end up in jail. So people fear going to the streets. So I realized we don't have the numbers when you protest. And I realized, let's put a bit of drama and art into our protest. So we realized the only way that we get heard is if we do something that is so dramatic. The media will have to cover the story. It's got to be on radio, on TV, and everyone gets to hear about it. So that's where the element of art came into our protest. Like, it's a performance art. For the pigs, it was inspired by Animal Farm. All animals are equal. Others are more equal than others. And the whole idea of the pigs were actually animals, but they created to be more equal than others. And the whole idea of actually the blood was supposed to symbolize that Kenyans have been bled dry by the politicians. And coincidentally, what you didn't know, that pigs eat anything. So it came with pigs. It was just one part of the art, and the blood was another part of the art. But when you pour the blood and the pigs are eating the blood, it was like, wow, that was actually by chance. For coffins in parliament, it was inspired by Fela Kuti. When the military government killed Fela Kuti's mother, Fela Kuti did a coffin for the state and they dropped the coffin out of the military barracks. And for what's the effect of that? Apart from the language we changed from pigs to MPigs, and guys relating to what we do, we're able to actually effect policy change. We've been able to reclaim like grabbed land by politicians. We've been able to change things from worse to better. The whole idea is to just highlight and shine a light on injustice. So every single thing that we do, we try and get people to become more bolder to stand up for the truth. So yes, there's a lot of drama and art in our protests, but we don't like being mistaken for the drama and the art. So there must be a message at the end of the day. When Garissa Massacre happened, where terrorists killed 147 students in a university, we did a protest called 147, not just a number. And we had 147 because we actually did a memorial for all the victims who died. We named them, we shared the pictures, because the government refused to acknowledge the massacre. So what we're trying to do is to make sure people don't forget, because Kenyans like forgetting and they like moving on. We are so traumatized as a country that the only way is to just move on. And so we try and use art because that is a good entry point. And it's very sad to say, let's engage with this moment and let's do something about it. Or let's remember this happened. So that, because if we keep on forgetting, we're gonna lose our country. So we have a role to ensure that people don't forget. And the reason I actually love Softie is that there's a record somewhere that some people came up and tried to do something. And Softie is not even about me, because I wasn't alone in this thing. It was actually a movement. And so Soko tells a story about a family. But it wasn't only a family, there were many of us. And when he started shooting and till the very end, some people were killed by the government. Some people died in the struggle and in the process. So the art is great. We do perform, but the focus is not the performance. It's actually, what are we trying to say? So the pig protest is about the greediness of our members of parliament, where people are hungry, people are poor, they don't have access to medical care, they have no water. Well, other guys are earning like $20,000 a month and they have bodyguards and all these perks. So yeah, so it makes me emotional to think about it.
Well, no, I really appreciate the work you do and the thought you put into it. I too saw your exhibition back when it was up. I don't even remember where, but it rendered me silent, because yes, you're sitting pretty in your safe walls when there is a bloodbath going on. So I think that opening, as much as it's intriguing and dramatic, it's also extremely impactful and symbolic. And those are the things that, art, we hope things will resonate for much longer than the experience itself. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we have to wrap up. So I have one question left about, I love that this film, I really appreciate how deep and serious this film is, but at the same time, we witness this family in lighter moments, like the moment where Jerry, you were in the US and you say, I want another baby. That was just like such a great natural icebreaker of a really tense and vulnerable moment where your husband is asking you to come back. I loved that because it just shows the three-dimensionality of your existence, right? Not everything is terrible and not everything is great. We have a balance of things and nuances of things. So a final question for you is when you look back at these 7 years of making this film, what are any moments of joy that stand out to you?
Wow. I think for me, moments of joy have been very close to some of my lowest moments at the same time, some of them, because there are times when I thought my husband was not going to make it. And then to go and see him, not just that he made it, but that we walk back home, we go back home together that same evening, for me was like, night and day. Yeah. Because I was terrified that I was going to be a widow and my children are going to grow up without a father. And then in nearly the same breath, I come home with my husband and with the father of my children. And, nothing else matters in that moment, but that we are home together, all sleeping under one roof. It doesn't matter what has happened in between. And for me, those are spaced out, but some of those low moments were also the things that brought me the greatest joy, to just have him back home. But also I must say that to have friends that I could lean on in those same moments is a great treasure, because I don't know how to have managed. I don't know how I would have survived without them. So I really appreciate all my friends.
The last 7 years have been an incredible journey, because 7 years ago I had just met Boniface, and now I'm like that chair in the house that I am so close to the family and the kids, and that's been an incredible gift on so many levels. And it always mesmerizes me how big the kids have become, and just from the point when we began, and just seeing Nate is now a teenager, and like we are having all grown up conversations, and you're like, oh God, child, how and it's that's crazy. But something that's when I speak this to the amazing people, is like, it's incredible to see how a lot of people from very many different backgrounds have gravitated and came together to work to make this film happen. And that's not something I would take for granted at all. And these are from our co-producers in Canada, I Still Film, because they literally were like, okay, this film, okay, whatever we are doing, let's do it. To Toni, who was, okay, let's just do this. And there's so many people who just gravitated and come to work together with the film and bring this film to the world through such incredible challenges and very difficult moments. From the point where the family is in exile and you don't know what's going to happen, to now we are here talking to Lupita Nyong'o, talking about the film. It's an incredible journey, and we don't take that for granted. And that brings us such incredible joy, not only for us and what it does to the Kenyan film industry and the African documentary industry, because it just speaks that we are capable to tell our own stories, and the world is ready to listen to them.
Yeah. So I'll go, and then maybe Softie could end. Last thoughts, Softie, final act, saving the best for last. I would say, wow, I would just say like Softie, the journey of Softie, because I joined the project towards the end of 2017. We had been selected for a pitch in Canada called Hot Docs Forum. As Soko and I had no money to go there. We had no idea how we were going to live in Nairobi. We just said, we're going to apply. And Judy Kibinge, founder of DocuBox, just encouraged us. She said, just be honest, live your truth. Just tell these people you don't have money to go and see if they can get you tickets. And we did that. Like, we wrote to the founders of hot dogs and we just said, we need to go and pitch, because we were the first. I mean, this has been a project of firsts. So we were the first Kenyan documentary to pitch at Hot Docs Forum, this huge amphitheater. We go there, we're complete underdogs. Everyone there, because there were 12 other projects pitching. And I was just, me and Soko were wondering, are we crazy? Why are we here? Us Kenyans who have never completed a feature, why are we here pitching with people who have won Oscars, people who have won Emmys? And then we're the two Africans in the room thinking we can be here and share our story. Like, we really had so many moments of doubt. We were like, are you sure? But honestly, we went there. Our incredible partners, I Still Film, helped us with the pitch. And what we leaned into, which has been part of our journey, I think part from the beginning when Soko was doing this project, till now, we just leaned into our authenticity. We didn't pretend to be people who we were not, you know, like, and a lot of that also just comes from Softie and Njeri. You know, they are who they are, yeah? And we leaned into that and we just, you know, told the crowd there, we're happy to be here. Thank you. This is a story, this is a project that comes from love. And the response was actually quite amazing from the crowd. And we who came as underdogs, who had no idea what we were doing in that room, we won Audience Award for Best Pitch. And I think for us, that was, yeah, and it was just so amazing. Like when we won, we were like, oh my God. And then we won another cash prize for pitching. And I think at that, and then, you know, the people were actually coming to us on the line, including POV, to give us a co-production deal. And I think at this point, we were like, oh my God, we have been limiting ourselves, thinking that we aren't capable of telling stories that can resonate, because there's this, you know, there's a sense of, in Kenya, you're taught that you should stay within a certain box. Like only certain people can do certain things. Everyone needs to toe the line and you're not special. I think that's what we're taught in school. And making this film like helped us understand that everyone's story is valid, everyone's point of view is valid. And you know, like Softie and Boniface wanting to change Kenya, he's not a crazy madman. It's something that's valid, and it's something that people should listen to. So I think that's just been the greatest joy, and it's a lesson that I've been learning over and over again with this film, with every new milestone, that you just need to believe, you know, in possibility. And in as much as we have qualified for Oscar consideration, we're still underdogs, but I think we're just going to do our best and see how far we go. Yeah, thank you. Amen.
So for me, Soko and I became very good friends, and he's a friend of the family, and even Toni. But my takeout from this entire process is that you can tell a film with respect, with empathy, and you can tell an African story with dignity. I did not feel humiliated. I did not feel like I was naked. It wasn't I will share like a sorry, feel sorry story. It's actually a beautiful story with a lot of empathy, a lot of respect. And there's a lot of nuances because it was told by an African. So it was an African telling an African story. So when I look back, I say, thank you for the gift of Softie, as in Soko and the entire team. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Because not only has it made me a better person, it has also made me understand that sometimes family has to come first, not country. And it took a film for me to see that. So thank you for that. And thank you, Lupita, for hosting us. This was a wonderful conversation. You are Kenya's gift to the world. And so you're adding Softie as another gift to the world as well. So thank you, Lupita.
Oh, no, thank you. This has been such a joy to get to talk to you guys. I'm overwhelmed by your generosity of spirit, the generosity of spirit that you shared the film in, and even in this conversation. Thank you for bringing your full selves to this conversation and for lending your story to the world. We are better for having seen it.
Thank you.
All right.